Every year, thousands of people disappear from highway rest stops across America. No witnesses, no suspects, no answers. And here's the thing nobody talks about. Most rest stop crimes happen in the 30 seconds when a person is completely alone, separated from everyone they trust, in a building they've never been inside before. I was 17 years old when I understood that statistic in a way I'll never forget. I was standing in a rest stop bathroom off on 85 at 2 a.m, and there was a man in there with me, and something about him was deeply, deeply wrong. I want to be honest with you right up front. Nothing supernatural happened that night. No one died. No one disappeared. But I am 23 years old now, and I still check the mirror before I walk into a public restroom. I still make sure I know exactly where the exit is before I look away from the door. Some nights I wake up at 2 a.m, and the first thing I think about is that rest stop off I-85 and the way that man's eyes followed me without his head ever turning. I was 17. My dad is a long-haul truck driver, and that summer he let me ride with him on a run from outside Atlanta all the way up to Asheville, North Carolina. I thought it was going to be the coolest thing. Wind down windows, gas station food, sleeping in the cab like we were living out some kind of road movie. And honestly, most of it was exactly that. My dad and I talked for hours. We listened to old country radio until it faded out, and then we just drove in comfortable silence, watching the tree line roll by in the dark. We stopped around 2 a.m. at a rest area somewhere in the middle of the state. I don't remember the exact mile marker. I remember the parking lot was almost empty, just 2 or 3 other semis scattered in the truck section, and one red car sitting alone at the far edge of the lot near the tree line with its headlights on. I thought that was a little odd, but I didn't think too much about it. People fall asleep in their cars all the time. My dad leaned his seat back and told me he was going to close his eyes for 45 minutes. He does this, he can sleep like a switch being flipped. I told him I needed to use the restroom and trim up my mustache. I was 17 and very proud of what at the time I considered a mustache. He handed me his small travel razor without even opening his eyes and was asleep before I had my door open. The restroom building was one of those long, low concrete structures they put at every highway rest stop. Fluorescent lights, the kind that hum, and a door that doesn't lock and swings shut behind you with a hollow metal sound. It smelled like industrial cleaner and something underneath the cleaner that the cleaner couldn't quite cover. I walked in and there were 4 urinals along one wall and 3 stalls on the other, and a long sink counter with a mirror running the length of it. There was one man in there. Standing at the far end of the sink counter, he was very tall, I'd say 6'4", maybe taller. He was wearing a dark jacket even though it was a warm night, and he was just standing there, not washing his hands, not looking at himself in the mirror, just standing with his hands on the edge of the sink, facing the mirror, but his eyes were not on his own reflection. They were on mine. I told myself I was being paranoid. It was late. I was tired. I took the urinal closest to the door, used it, and moved to the sink to wash my hands. I set the razor on the counter and turned on the water. And that's when he moved. He didn't leave. He took 3 slow steps sideways, toward me. He stopped at the urinal directly behind where I was standing, which makes no sense because you don't stand at a urinal that's directly behind a sink. That is not a thing people do. I watched him in the mirror. He was facing the wall. He didn't do anything. He just stood there, close enough that I could hear him breathing. Slow, deep, measured, like someone concentrating very hard on breathing calmly. I picked up the razor. I didn't make a big thing of it. I just held it in my right hand while I reached up with my left like I was checking my hair. I looked young and I looked scared, and I knew I looked scared, and I told myself, do not look scared. Breathe. Be slow. Do not run. I pretended to trim my mustache. My hands were not entirely steady. My eyes did not leave the mirror. After maybe 90 seconds, and 90 seconds is a long time when you are counting your own heartbeats, he stepped back from the urinal. He hadn't used it. He walked to the middle of the room, and then instead of leaving, he turned and went into one of the stalls, the one closest to me. I heard the door push open. I did not hear it latch. I stood there for a moment. From the gap at the bottom of the stall door, I could see his shoes, dark boots. He was facing the door, not the toilet. He was standing inside that stall, facing the door in silence, watching the gap. I put the razor in my pocket, turned off the water, and walked out of that building without running, which is the hardest thing I have ever done in my life. I got to the truck and stood outside for a second, just breathing. The night was warm and still. Cicadas. Diesel smell from the idling semis. I looked over at the far edge of the lot where that red car had been sitting with its headlights on. The headlights went off. Not like someone turned the car off, just the lights. They went off. The car was still there, just dark now. Like whoever was inside had been watching and saw me come out and decided they didn't need the lights on anymore. I stood very still. I didn't walk toward it. I didn't call out. I just looked at the shape of it in the dark for a long moment, and then I climbed back into the truck and locked the door and sat there with my heart going like a drum. About an hour later, I needed to go back. I was on FaceTime with my friend Marcus by then. I'd called him almost immediately and just kept him on the phone because I needed to hear another voice. I walked back to the restroom with my phone up and Marcus watching. The tall man was gone. The stall doors were open. The building was empty, just the humming lights and the smell of cleaner and the door swinging shut behind me. We left the rest stop around 3:15. Nothing else happened. My dad never knew. I didn't tell him until months later. And when I did, he got very quiet in a way that told me he understood exactly what I was describing, that he had seen things on long-haul routes that he'd chosen not to talk about either. You did right, he said. Stayed calm, kept the razor out, didn't run. He paused. Running makes some people decide something. I've thought about that sentence almost every day since he said it. I don't know who that man was. I don't know what he wanted. Or if he wanted anything at all. Maybe he was harmless. Maybe he was mentally ill. Maybe I misread the whole thing, and he was just a weird, tall guy who stands in bathroom stalls at 2 a.m. for completely innocent reasons. I genuinely don't know. What I do know is this, that red car's headlights didn't turn off by accident. Someone was watching that parking lot, watching the door to that building, watching to see who came out and when and whether they were alone. And when I came out, not running, not panicked, just walking with purpose, something changed in whoever was sitting in that car. My dad always says the road has a different set of rules at night, that the people you meet after midnight at rest stops and truck stops and gas stations in the middle of nowhere, some of them are just tired travelers like you, and some of them are something else entirely. And the hard part, the part that stays with you, is that you never really know which one you're looking at until it's too late to matter. I keep the razor on my nightstand now, not because I think I'll ever need it, just because some habits, once they start, are hard to break, and some rest stops I'm pretty sure I'll be driving past for the rest of my life.